You go back. Shift. Ask Royal if he's hearing me. Good morning, farmers. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Once again, welcome to another session on Purus Africa virtual training. My name is Dr. Alex, and I will be your teacher tonight. Last time we had this training, Dr. Isa was here, and we discussed so many vital issues. I think we discussed on the breed selection, we discussed on brooding, we discussed on feeding techniques and basic principle in poultry farming. I want to bet that those that are here really enjoyed, and those that went back to watch the videos really had a wonderful time. I know there's so much that you have gained. If you are just joining us, please you can subscribe on this thing so that you keep getting our updates. Today we'll go a step further. Having known how to select your breed, having known the basic principles in this business, having known your feeding techniques, we'll go just a step further today to discuss other vital issues that poultry farmers are also faced with. In my experience in farming, I've discovered that one of the most basic issues that poultry farmers have is how to understand heat stress management. You know, the industry and the business is quite funny. So when the birds are young, you are basically trying to give them the adequate temperature. You are concerned about heat, you are concerned about cold, you are concerned about ventilation. You don't want too much air, you don't want too much cold because it affects the mortality, their survival rates, and also affects their growth. Now, as this bird grows, they will get to a stage that what you are concerned is for the heat not to be too much. Funny, right? Yeah. So what you are concerned as the bird grows, as they enter 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, depending on how long you want to keep them, what you are concerned most at this point now is the heat too much for them. We are still in the heat period, and every time we receive instant calls from our farmers about issues with the birds, and when we go to visit them, like we always do, we discover that heat is one of the problems. So that's why today we've taken our time to discuss heat stress management. Before I continue, what is heat stress? Heat stress is when the temperature, heat stress is when the temperature of the environment is so much or is too much for the birds to cope with. And once the temperature is too much for the birds to cope with, it leads to several issues. One of the issues is due to internal and external changes. So, as an observant farmer, you start noticing that there are internal changes. You can see the changes from the poo of the birds. Okay, sometimes you see that they have watery poo. Sometimes you go to see the poo of the birds, it's just water, no color, just water, and it's watery. Now, this is one of the external changes that heat stress causes. And from the for the other internal changes, you're going to see that sometimes you see the birds panting. All these are signs of heat stress. So heat stress is a very big deal in poultry farming. And if you are going to be a successful poultry farmer, broiler farmer, you must understand how to manage heat stress. Basically, there are three ways a good farmer manage his stress. Three ways. One of the most critical way of managing his stress is through housing. Housing. Something as small as housing plays a fundamental role in determining if the farmer is going to make profit or loss. If a farmer do not get his housing or housing rights, that farmer have started to fail from the beginning. It's a big issue if a farmer is set up to fail. And housing is one of the fundamental structures that can determine if a farmer make profit or loss. Funny, right? Now, what are the things you consider in housing? So it can be a pen, a well constructed pen. It could be a cage. It could be house. And we've discovered that small scale farmers basically use house. So they have 3 rooms in their houses, or they have 4 rooms in the building, and they set one room apart for poultry production. Just try to maximize the use of these houses. So a farmer must get the housing right. What are the things that you need to get if you must get the housing right? What are the things that you need to know? The first thing that every farmer must know is the direction of the house. The direction of the house. If you get the direction wrong, so many things will go wrong in the farm or with the poultry. So we advise our farmers that the direction should be facing east to west. The sunrise is the east, so the vent of the pen or of the poultry housing, depending on what you are using, or even the cage, should be from east to west. Something as small or as fundamental as this direction can go a long way in helping the farmer. Sometimes the difference between a farmer that make profit and the one that will make losses, that will experience mortality, that will experience poor growth, that will experience uneven growth, which is a big deal as we're going to see as we go further, is something as fundamental or as simple as direction of the house. Where is this house facing? Like we advise, east to west. Why do we choose east? Why do we say east to west? Why not north to south? We say east to west because the sun rises from the east and it sets in the west. So as the sun rises, it's important that the sun is not shining or facing the pen. If you build your pen from north to south, it means that once the sun rises in the east, from 9, 10, 11, before it gets to the peak, is facing the pen. And this is a very big issue in poultry management. What this is going to cause is as the sun rays shines into the pen, it increases the temperature of the pen. So the birds are not comfortable from 9 o'clock, as early as 9 o'clock in the morning. The birds are not comfortable. The temperature is getting high. 9, 10, 11 is getting high. When you get to the peak, fine, it's at the top of the roof of the pen. It may not really have that effect on the pen. But when it gets to 1 again, as the sun starts setting, now it also shines into the pen. So from 1, 2, 3, 4, the temperature of the pen is high. So for 8 hours of the day, it increases the temperature of the pen. What this means is that birds will move away from the area that have sun rays. That means they are going to be crowded in other areas that have shade in the pen. So you have 10 feeder. 5 feeder are in the sun rays. That means the birds are forced to struggle for the other 5 that are in shades, even inside the pen. So some are drinking water, some are not drinking water. Some are eating, some are not eating. It leads to uneven growth. So no wonder at the end of the day, you see some of your birds having 2 kg, while others have just 1 kg. Why? It is because of the direction of the house. Also, don't forget that wind, also air, comes in a particular direction. If your pen is facing east to west, it means there will be free flow of air. So air comes in, there's enough ventilation for the birds. But if you do it the other way from north to south, the pen structure is directly in the way of the air movements. It means that the pen will always be stuffy. It will lead to coccidiosis, it will lead to stuffiness, it will lead to bacterial buildup, and with time, the farmer will start experiencing bacterial infections. So that thing as important as housing, the direction of the house, have caused you so many things. That cause you uneven growth, that cause you increased rates of and increased spread of diseases. So you want to avoid it and get the housing right. Also, what the housing also cover when managing heat stress is ventilation, how air comes in, the flow of air. If you don't get the housing right, you are going to be what? There are going to be poor ventilation. And you know, poor ventilation is going to affect the immune system of the birds. The birds will be falling sick also. There will also be disease buildup. So we see high rate of coccidiosis, you see high rate of bacterial infection, salmonellosis, you see high rate of um, fowl typhoid, porovium, and other bacterial diseases. In fact, it has been proven that if there's no adequate ventilation, the case of CRD is going to multiply. So as we extension personnel of Post Africa, we go around our farmers, we go to visit our farmers, the thing we keep experiencing. And anytime they say, oh, my birds are coughing, they have catarrh, they are sneezing. As we enter the pen, to see the first thing that we see, and we've seen that in a pattern in almost every farmer that has CRD, is that there is poor ventilation of the house. And sometimes because of these small scale farmers, they use building, a room in the house. You know, the windows are not too big compared to a normal standard poultry pen. It affects them. So the housing is very important. Also, when looking at the housing, you look at the wetness of the house. You know, some houses are built in swampy areas, and as you go, as it gets wet, water seeps from the ground, and the pen is always wet. So you want to get your housing right. If your pen is always wet, water seeps from the ground, it means that something fundamentally wrong. And what this is going to result in is that the birds will always be cold. And if the bird is always be cold, they will spend more energy in trying to conserve heat. It means that if they are eating 2 kg of feed, for example, instead of this 2 kg of feed to result in nutrients, to result in good feeding, to result in them growing very well, is going to cause them using 1 kg to conserve heat and 1 kg to grow. So it's affecting their growth in a way. So you want to get it right. Also, you want to get the height of the bricks. You know, when you build poultry pen, you use bricks for the initial stage. So the first 3 coaches might be brick, and as you go up, you can put nets. Now, it's very important that you know that only the first 3 coaches or the first 2 coaches of the poultry pen is bricks. So if you build it as like you're building a fence, what happens is that it prevents ventilation, it prevents the flow of air into the pen. It makes the pen stuffy, and like we said, bacteria build up, disease build up, stuffiness, and high mortality. So you want to get your housing right. This is the best way to prevent heat stress. A farmer that cannot control heat stress is a farmer that is open to dangers. So sometimes as we go, I have a particular case that I want to share. If a farmer called me, if you're familiar with Kaduna, a farmer called me for a particular part of Kaduna, and because the farmer is my friend, he said, Dr. Alex, please come. I say, okay. So I took a cab to the farmers. And when the farmer was crying, the farmer was really crying. And the farmer said, my beds, that someone poisoned my beds. I said, will someone poison your bed? I said, what happened? He said, this morning I have 50 beds and we are doing okay. I just went for work. I came back, all the 50 beds are dead, and it looked like poison. But as I tried to investigate further, I discovered that because of the stuffiness and because of the heat stress, it was heat that killed those birds. So heat can kill a flock of birds, and not even one is remaining. It's very important. We've seen a pattern of complaints for farmer in the last 3 to 4 months of incessant death caused by heat. And if you're a farmer here, it's good that you also have this knowledge. And one thing you can do to help us and to help other farmers is to increasingly put this your challenges on the workbook. So if you are here and you are not signed up in the app, this is a good time for you to sign up in the app. When you check the comment section right now, you're going to see a link that will take you to the app. What the app does for you is help us also monitor. So as you have these incessant issues in your flock and you are trying to raise your complaints to us as the essential personnel of Post Africa. As you put it down, we are able to follow up the trend of what is happening. So the app helps us as it helps you and help other farmers around you. So you instantly, what are you noticing in your flock? You put it down for us and we see and we take action. Housing. The next way you can manage heat stress is through the nutrition, how you approach their feeding. So many times, as farmer wants to help the birds, they want to make the birds well, they want to take care of the birds. They are doing this with all honesty in their hearts. But as they are doing this, they are increasing the heat stress of these birds. So they are good intention. They say the way to hell is paved with good intention. So they have good intentions. They want to feed their birds. Their birds will grow well. Their birds will grow big. But they are increasing the heat stress. So what do we tell farmers? The first thing we tell farmers is that a farmer must understand time of feeding. Yes, there is a time that you should feed your birds. We advise you to give proper feeding, but wisdom demands that you know the time in which you feed your birds. There's some time that you don't feed your birds. It's a no-no, especially if the birds have grown to substarting stage. Stage is like when the birds are 3 to 4 weeks. A farmer should be careful how we feed. If you are just joining us, you are welcome. Please, you can click on the subscribe button to subscribe. And if you have not joined us in using our app, please, the link of the app is there. Please click on the link, sign up in the app, and start using the app. It goes a long way in helping farmers and also helping us. In fact, we've discovered in the last 3 months that farmers that use the Produce app have better results than farmers that don't. So if you want to be a better farmer, you want to understand what you are doing in the poultry business and the poultry industry, it's essential that you use the Produce app, and the link is on the comment section. As I continue, nutrition. Nutrition. A farmer must know when to feed the birds, which type of feed, at which particular season. Now, we advise our farmers that from the first week, you should give them feed ad libitum, which means 24 hours, because it's important that you get maximum weights at the first 7 days. As you go further in this virtual training, you're going to understand the reason why you should get maximum weight on the first 7 day, because it goes a long way in determining the weight of the birds as they grow. But once your birds gets to 3 weeks and 4 weeks and 5 weeks, especially in this period where the heat is high, you should understand when not to feed your birds. So we tell our farmers at the peak of the day, when the heat is highest, from 12 p.m., 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., even to 4, depending on the condition of the weather, it's important that the farmer does not feed the birds, especially when you come and see the birds panting. And if you agree with me that this period and in this time, anytime you go to your birds at 1, 2, 3, 12, your birds, there's a likelihood of the birds panting. Anytime, excuse me, anytime you see your birds panting, it's telling you that these birds don't need feed at this particular point in time. So anytime you see your birds panting, it's an indication that these birds don't need feed at this particular point in time. I used to give example with you. Just imagine you are by 12 p.m. The sun is high and you are sweating, and someone brought a hot plate of food for you. You discover that if you are hungry enough to eat, as you are eating, you are sweating more. In fact, some of us may have to move our shirts just to reduce the heat. That's for humans. Humans even have sweat glands. You can sweat. Sweating is a way of removing heat from the body. But poultry birds don't have sweat glands. It means that they don't sweat. So all the heat is stockpiled in the bird's body. So if as a poultry farmer you don't understand this thing and you don't take cognizance and you feed them when the temperature is very high, you are increasing the heat stress on them. And before you know, the birds will start dying. And you're very surprised. In the morning, the birds are okay, 50 birds, they're okay, they're growing very well. And under 2 hours, half of the birds are dead. As if somebody came and blew something on the birds. But it's not like that, it's just heat. So heat is a very important thing in poultry production. You must know how to control this. Another thing is water. So during the heat period, when the temperature is high, the bird will take more water. So the appetite for water increases. It's important that the farmer follows this. So what tells a farmer what to do is the reaction of the birds. So as the bird reacts, take more water, a farmer will pay attention to water. What we've discovered as a pattern to most of the farmers is the fact that they give the water in the morning and they say until the water finishes. Especially when they put drug, because they don't want to waste the drug, they don't throw away the drugs. They say, okay, there is still drug remaining. Let the bird finish the drug. So I have a particular case in one of our clusters in Kaduna, where a farmer just called me in the middle of the night and say, doctor, please come. Oh, this night, 4 of my birds have just died. And they around 7 p.m., the birds were okay. But as around 8 p.m., 4 baby birds died. And she panicked and she called me. So I left my house that night. I went to meet the farmer and I went to the pen. And I discovered that a flock of 150 birds, only one drinker was there. And I saw the other drinker outside. And I said, why do you have one drinker? He said, I put drugs. I combine these four drinkers into one so that they can drink the drugs. Our drug will not waste. As okay, now we are trying to save drugs from wasting, but four birds have died. How much is the drug and how much is the worth of the birds? So farmers can be some farmers can be penny wise. Okay, you are trying to save drugs, but you are affecting the health of your birds. Your birds are dying, which is not very wise. So you must monitor the water intake of the birds. At all times, there should be sufficient water, especially in the period of feed. Yes, you can increase, you can stop feeding, you can suspend feeding, but you must not suspend water. In fact, we even advise farmers that if you can give them cool water, it's even the best. Think about it. If you are hot, you are sweating, and two people offered you, one offered you cold water, one offered you warm water, one offered you hot water, which one will you prefer? Everybody will prefer the cold water. Why? Is because the cold water is going to help the heat stress that the individual is facing. It's important that farmers also look at this thing from the perspective of humans. So sometimes we should be empathic to these birds. We should put ourselves in their shoes also. So if you can give them cold water, which I know sometimes is not applicable, it's not sometimes it's not workable, but as much as it's possible. So if you have poultry in your house and you have constant power, nothing stop you from putting pure water, such water in your freezer. As it gets frozen in the afternoon, you drop them into the drinker. It reduces the temperature of the water, which makes it good for the birds. Okay, so it reduces the stress of the birds. Also, if you cannot do that, which I understand, it's important that you instantly change the water. You agree with me that as the water stays in the drinker over time, 3 4 hours, it gets hot and it gets warm. This is not time for you to wait for the water to finish. As you notice that the water is warm and the temperature is hot or is lukewarm, what you need to do is to change the water and give them fresh water. Fresh water will always be cooler than water that have stayed for quite some time. So you give them fresh water. This is a way to help reducing heat stress using nutrition. Another way you can help is by giving them vitamins. So vitamins, there are many vitamins in the market: vitamin B, vitamin A, vitamin C. These vitamins help reduce stress. Even as humans, if you are stressed, doctor will prescribe vitamins for you. So once you notice that your birds are stressed, okay, so they are panting incessantly for quite some time, it's good that you introduce vitamins and other electrolytes. Now, this helps your bird reduce stress. This is one of the ways you can do this. Reducing stress using your nutritional pattern. Once again, if you're joining us, you are once welcome. This Bruce Africa virtual training, and we'd like you to subscribe by hitting on the subscription button. And if you have not joined us, also you can join us by being a Bruce farmer using our Bruce app, and the link is on the comment section as I continue. Now, the third way, which I also consider very important, in helping you manage his stress is the operational way. So operations, just like it's like management, or your managemental practice, or your management practice, how you manage your flocks, it can help you reduce heat stress. Like I said, heat stress is very critical. It can kill your bird. In fact, sometimes the birds may not die, but they're not growing. You don't know why they're not growing. It's because of heat stress. They are eating and they're not growing. Now, one way in which you can help do this is by the operations. First, under operations is the stocking density. How many birds are you stocking in that your particular pen? First of all, how do you determine the stocking density of your pen? That means, how do you determine how many birds that your pen can contain? No, most farmers can be very wonderful. Just using their eyes, they can tell you, this place can contain 50 birds. Ask them how they know. They gaze. So how do you know? So for farmers, for the standard practice, there's a way, an acceptable way, or a standard way of determining. And this way is by calculation. So you calculate the length of the pen and the width of the pen. When you calculate these two factors, it's going to give you a number. Okay, so let's say you have a pen with a dimension 10 by 10. So the length is 10 foot, the breadth is 10 foot. So you say 10 times 10 in foot. 10 times 10 is 100. it means that that pen can contain 100. Okay, so that's how. If it's, let's say the rent is 20 and the width is 10, you say 20 times 10, which is 200. It means that that pen can contain 200. If you overstock, you are increasing the heat stress of your particular flock. Put yourself in the shoes. You are in the house. You are just two of you. Okay, you and your children, or you and just two of you. Imagine in that same house, you people are 20. What happens to you people guys? You start feeling excessive heat. Same thing happens to poultry. If you overstock them, you increase the heat stress. Like we said, heat stress affects their feed conversion, it affects their growth, it makes the growth uneven, it increases mortality, it increases the spread of diseases. So it's important that farmers avoid this. Also, you should know when to vaccinate. So if you want to avoid heat stress, you don't vaccinate the bird at the peak of the heat period. So from you don't vaccinate in the afternoon. That's just the general rule. So you vaccinate in the morning or in the evening. Anytime you vaccinate your bird in the afternoon, you are increasing the risk of those birds of vaccine failure and also increasing the heat stress of the birds. Other activities like changing of litters, you want to change your litters from the manure is dirty, you want to pack it and put fresh one. All these things, you don't do them in the afternoon because it will increase the stress, heat stress of those birds. Or you want to transfer your birds from the brooding house to the pen proper. I understand that most farmers brood in a separate place. Then after 2 weeks, they transfer the brooded birds to the pen proper. You don't do this transfer in the afternoon because if you do it in the afternoon, you're going to increase the heat stress of the bird. Okay, so you do it in the morning and in the evening. Finally, under this, and very importantly, is when people comes to offtake birds from you, when people comes to buy birds from you, it's important that they don't come in the afternoon. Because as you try to run to catch the birds, you have to catch them one by one and other things. As you do this, what you are doing is as the birds run from point A to point B, from the north of the pen to the south of the pen, the birds are increasing the stress. And as you leave them, you go back. Let's say you have 50 birds, they come and pack 30, and they've stressed the remaining 20 for you, and they've stressed the remaining 20. What happens is that is in the next few hours, in the next few days, because you have increased the stress of these birds, the birds will come down with sicknesses. Their immune system will drop. Some may even die, and you don't know what happens. It's because of you've stressed them. So any stressful activity should be done in the mornings and in the evening when the temperature is cooler. That's that on heat stress. And very quickly, I'm going to be discussing another important factors, and that is feeder and drinker management. Ah, some people just say, "Oh, is there any importance of managing feeder and drinker? What is even managing feeder and drinker?" Feeder and drinker is not something that you place much emphasis on because it's just feeder and it's just drinker. But it's quite wrong. You must manage your feeder and drinker. One of the ways in which you can manage your feeder and drinker is by knowing the numbers of feeder and the number of drinker that a particular number of birds you have. As simple as that. Now, one recent issue, excuse me, one incident issue that we have discovered as extension personnel in Post Africa, as we visit our farmers, there is a high number of uneven growths. So you see farmers in a particular pen. A farmer have 100 pen. Some of the birds are weighing 100 birds. Sorry, some of the birds are weighing 2 kg. In that same bed, some are weighing 1 kg. And these birds were brought in the same day. What happens? Why is that so? One of the primary causes of uneven growth is insufficient numbers of feeder and drinker. Something as important as that. How much is a feeder? Now, if the numbers of drinkers and feeders is not sufficient enough, it's not many enough, it means that at every particular time, some of the birds are eating, some of the birds are not eating. The stronger ones are eating, the weaker ones are not eating. That's just the simple logic behind it. So the ones that are eating will always have an advantage. So they grow bigger than the ones that are not eating. So, and it's affecting your profits, it's affecting the productivity, it's affecting the money that's coming back to you. Because the price of a 2 kg belt will be different from the price of a 1 kg belt. And you bought this belt the same day. So you don't want that. You want to get at least a 95% uniformity in the growth of your birds. That's why you have to know the adequate number of feeder and drinker. And we recommend that for every 30 bird, you need one feeder and one drinker, even when they are quite young. As they grow, in fact, number can even reduce to 20 birds as they grow. Just a typical example is the picture that you are watching now. Look at this picture very well. You are going to understand and see that all these birds that you are seeing here, they have access to the feed at the same time. And if you pay close attention, you will see a high level of uniformity in the growth of these birds. Now, if the feeders are not enough, and some are eating, some are not eating, some are standing, some are watching from one point to another, looking for access to feed, some will be bigger than some. And that is one of the reasons why farmers don't make profit in this business. So we say every 30 bird, one feeder. That means if you have 31 bed or 32 beds, you need two feeder and two drinker. Feeder and drinker is not what to manage. It's not something you should manage if you want to be a good poultry farmer. Another thing is the arrangement of your feeder and drinker. You must know how to arrange it. If you don't arrange it very well, sometimes we go to poultry farmers and we see that, oh, they concentrate the feeder and drinker in one part of the pen, and some other parts just have one feeder, one drinker, and this part have four feeder and four drinker. Yes, something like that. You might be nonchalant, or you not really understand what's happening. What you are trying to do is that you are trying to um, a poor arrangement of this can also lead to uneven growth. It means that birds on this particular part of the pen are eating, while birds at this particular part of the pen are struggling to have access to food. Also, the height of your feeder and drinker. At every point in time, the height of the feeder and drinker is very important, very, very crucial, and very important. Now, if you don't manage the height properly, what happens is that the birds will be more stressed and they will have issues. So we advise farmer that at every point in time, the height of the feeder should be at the chest of the bird, at the chest level of the bird. It means that the birds are eating while they are standing. Anytime the birds are eating while they are sitting down, an error is being committed. The farmer is making a mistake. It simply means that, excuse me, it simply means that the birds are adding more weight than their legs could carry. Can lead to poor immune system. It can lead to disease outbreak. The birds will have poor immunity and they'll come down with diseases. And in fact, sometimes it can even lead to lameness. So you see some of the birds getting paralysis, and you are giving calcium, and farmers have abused calcium in the market. So every time a farmer is giving calcium, giving calcium. Sometimes the cost is not for lack of calcium. It's just that the birds we are eating while they are sitting down. So we advise you to adjust the height of the feeder and even the drinker. So some farmers do adjust the feeder, but they've not come to the consciousness of adjusting the height of the drinkers also. If the feeder is down, many things can happen. Okay, so it means that as the birds walk around the pen, sometimes they kick dirt, they kick litter material into the feed, and they still feed on these things. Okay, so exposing them to more dangers, to more infection. Sometimes some birds, if you know how birds behave, sometimes some birds will just jump and sit on top of the feeder, especially when the weather is quite hot, and they are pooing on the feed. Once the bird sits on top of the feeder and drinker, the bird automatically poo on the feed. And other birds are eating the feed also. So what happens as they eat the feed? They are eating fecal material, they are eating their poo, they are eating infections, bacteria, and viruses. And within a short time, they come down with diseases. So it's important for every farmer to pay close attention to the arrangements, the heights, and the number of feeder and drinkers. Why? To give them equal access to feed, to prevent uneven growth, to prevent disease outbreak, and to prevent the spread of diseases. Very important to me. Finally, before um, we end this session for today and take questions, it's very important that every farmer understand what is called feed conversion ratio. So one thing I always tell farmer is that every good farmer must have a scale. If you're a poultry farmer, especially a private farmer here, and you don't have a scale, it means something is wrong with the farmer's priorities. As you prepare to book for your doe chick, as you prepare to book for feed, to get your feed and get some drugs for prophylactic treatment or for brooding and every other thing, you should prepare to get a scale. And if you have a scale already, you should prepare to get new batteries. That's part of the farmer's preparation. A farmer that does not have the scale cannot be effective in this business. Luckily enough for our farmers in West Africa, we have skills that we sell at very subsidized rates. So we advise farmers to come to the office or call our agents, pick up a scale. It helps your business. We went a long way to get this scale available for farmers. Part of our contribution to see that farmers have good practice. And I'm so grateful for the farmers we have under us. Many of them, so many of them are adapting this practice. The need to constantly weigh their beds, the need to constantly weigh their feed. And if you are here and you want to understand the need to constantly weigh your bed, sign up on the Pulse app. What the Pulse app give you is a guide on how to weigh your bed. And it will also tell you if the weight of your bed at this particular point in time is commensurate with the standard. Is it up to standard? If not, it's going to show you. If yes, it's going to give you a thumbs up. So if you are here, you don't know if your bed is up to standard. Okay, my best are 4 weeks. I weigh them, but I don't know if it's the weight that they're supposed to have. Sign up on the Pulse app. Start using the Pulse app. As you use the Pulse app and you put the weight of your bed, because we have a section where you impute the weight of your beds. As you impute the weight of your bed, it shows you if the weight is in line with what is supposed to be at this particular stage in the life of the beds. Very importantly. But the first step starts with you acquiring a scale. Get a scale. If you don't have a scale, come to the office or call one of our agents, which we are all ever close to you, and book for one. We'll bring this to you and we'll teach you how to use this. And if you are here, you don't even know how to use it, sign up to like us or follow us on our Facebook page at Plus Africa. You'll see educative videos on how to use this skill. So many farmers outside Kaduna State have benefited from these videos. You too can be part of those beneficiaries. Now, coming to understanding food feed conversion ratio, FCR, it simply means how to know how efficient your birds are in consuming the food and converting the feed that they have eaten into body weight. Yes, we are interested in our birds eating. Yes, we want our birds to eat. We want our birds to grow big. We want our birds. We feel that the more they eat, which is supposed to be true, is the more they are going to add weight. But it's good that you measure and you monitor. Sometimes a bird will eat and they won't have weight because they have poor feed conversion ratio. And the only way to know the food conversion ratio of your bird is for you to understand and how to calculate. Luckily enough for us, the Pulse app have helps you calculate your feed conversion ratio. So if you are here and you want to you don't like maths, I say how? So they want me to start calculating. No, just sign up on the Pulse app, put the weight of the feed, put the weight of the belt, and it will automatically convert it for you and tells you if you are in track or not. And if you are not in track, you can have suggestions on how to work and how to adjust it. That is one of the numerous benefits of farmers using the Pulse app. Now, what is the importance of feed conversion ratio? The importance is that it places your production costs side by side with your profitability. So two farmers can have the same number of beds, 50-50 beds, and they've used the same cost of feed, five bag of feed. That is 125, for example, 125 kg of feed. And they're having different results. So a farmer bed is 2 kg at this point, another farmer bed is 1 kg at this point. What causes this disparity? This disparity is being caused by the feed conversion ratio. That means you have to know um, at each point in time the feed conversion ratio of your birds. Excuse me. Okay. You have to know at each point in time the feed conversion ratio of your birds. Is very important. Now, how do you calculate the feed conversion ratio? It's very simple. If you have a book and a Bible with you, or even with your phone, you can go to your notes and jot this down. So it's calculated by calculating the total feed consumed over the total weight gained. So the total feed that the birds have consumed divided it by the weight of the birds at each particular point in time. It's very important that you know this. So if you are here and you've not putting this down, please take a Bible, take a paper, write it down, get your phones, go to the notes and put it down. And you can also know this using the Pulse app. Don't forget. Now let's do just a brief calculation so we know how this go. So this is a typical example of a farmer in Kaduna, and this is what happens. So the farmer have some birds, and these birds have consumed 500 kg of feed, and the weight gained is 300 kg. And the farmer wants to calculate the feed conversion ratio. So the farmer say 500 kg, which is the kg of the feed consumed, divided by 300 kg, which is the kg of what? Of the birds at that particular point in time. Now, the weight, the FCR, feed conversion ratio, is 1.67. Now, the higher the FCR, it tells you that the birds are not doing very well. And the lower the FCR, tells you that an indication that the birds are doing very well. So you want to reduce the FCR as much as possible. Now, so some birds, when you do this conversion and this calculation, they will get one, which is quite lower than 1.67. So a farmer that have one as his or her answer have a better feed conversion ratio. That means for that farmer, a typical example is what we have here. For this particular farmer, it means that the farmer is going to consume, the birds consume 1.67 kg of feed to get 1 kg of meat. 1.67 kg of feed to get 1 kg of meat. Let's imagine that farmer have two as his answer or her answer. It means that that farmer, the bird of that farmer consume 2 kg of feed to get 1 kg of meat. The higher the feed conversion ratio, the lower your profitability. That's why it's also important to monitor the feed conversion ratio very well. Monitor it from initial, from in fact, it's good that you monitor from the first week. The first week. If you monitor from the first week, you are going to know if you are doing well or not, and you can make adjustments. And in case the calculation is too much for you, or you want to make it easier for yourself, once again, sign up on the Pros app, weigh your bets, get a scale, weigh your bet, weigh your feed, impute this on the Pros app, and it's going to give you your feed conversion ratio on its own and tells you if you an indication if you are doing well or not. So I'm going to stop in here for today's class and be open to answer questions. So if you have a question, please drop it on the comments as I answer the questions. Once again, if you're joining us, you're welcome. It's another virtual training called by Dr. Alex. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. And if you have not joined us, you can join us. You can like our page. You can join us via Facebook. And also, you can also join us via the app. And the link is down. Thank you very much. I'll take question now. Okay. Let me what of this. Sure. Question. Okay. Okay, the first question says, I'm seeing here, says, how many hours? Thank you. Thank you. How many hours is appropriate during Hamatan, rainy season, heat period, to starve birds from water before vaccination? How many hours? Thank you. So these questions will differ from season because seasons determine how a bird take in water. So I understand the farmer's point of view, how many hours. So during the Harmattan period, what I advise farmers is that as you go to sleep, so from 7 p.m. as you go to sleep, you starve the birds from water because you want to give them vaccine first thing in the morning. Like we said, you don't want to vaccinate your birds in the afternoon. You want to do it first thing in the morning. So as you go to sleep, 7, you can starve them of water. Then as day break, the birds are just waking up. They are waking up with thirst, and by 7, 8, sometimes 9, depending on how far where the vaccine is and how you want to do it or your time schedule, you can vaccinate them. Okay. Now, during the rainy season, I don't think the rainy season have any effects to play on when to starve the birds. It really have no effects to play. I think you can also do that night. Let's say, okay, if you want to vaccinate your birds in the evening period, I think by any time from 3, let's say by 6, you want to give them vaccine by 6. From 3, you can just starve your birds 2, 3. In the next 4, 5 hours, the birds are thirsty, then you are free to go ahead with vaccine. And it's also important that we note that it's also important that we note that we don't vaccinate birds in the afternoon. It's very important. Very important. So we should take note of that. Other questions? And I'm going to do a very brief summary for those that are joining us late. We started this meeting. I will do a brief summary for those that joined us late. We started this by discussing heat stress, and we said heat stress is when the temperature of the environment or in the birds is too much for the birds to cope with, and it gives rise to some physical, external, and internal changes. Excuse me. It gives rise to some external and um, internal changes. It's very important that farmers know how to manage heat stress. And 3 ways that we have given in this edition of our virtual training is housing. We said housing is a very important way of managing heat stress. And in housing, we discussed direction, which is the direction of the house. Which direction is the house facing? We emphasize that it's important that the house is facing from east to west. That if your house face from north to south, it means that as the sun shines, it's going to shine into the pen and it will increase the temperature. We also discuss ventilation. It will surprise you, especially for our farmers that use cage. Most times, when we visit these farmers, we discover that the cage is so covered. Normally, a cage have 4 sides. Am I correct? So east, west, north, south of the cage. The standard practice of using cages is that at least 3 sides of the cage is open. It's netted. That's what it means. It's netted. 3 sides of the cage is netted. Just one side is closed. But from experiences, in fact, yesterday I went for a farm visit. I saw a particular farmer in one of our clusters that the 3 sides of the cage is completely closed, and even the part that is opened, he still puts zinc to halfway, and just very few portion was having ventilation, and I was not surprised. It's not showing. Okay, screen is not showing. Okay. I was not surprised when the farmer complained that her birds were dying. and I told her that the cage is a problem. The cage is one of the reasons why the birds are dying. So if you want to really do this, always have room for enough ventilation. Enough ventilation is very important. If there's no ventilation, the birds are going to struggle. The farmer is going to struggle with the birds. Also, wetness, the wetness of the pen. Sometimes, like I explained earlier, that the pen can be wet if it's built on a swampy area. Yeah, even though you cemented the floor and other things, but because of its built on the swampy area, it's wet. Water is seeping from ground and it's always wet. Once a pen is wet, it's going to increase the stress of the birds. Okay, so you're going to affect the heat cover, conserving the birds. So you don't want to do that. You want to avoid wet areas. Also, the height of the bricks. You know, if you are building pen, the first two layers of the pen, there is bricks. Use bricks for the first 2 years. The height of the bricks is very important. That the bricks are not quite high. Just 2, 3 coaches is very important. If the coaches are more than three, it's up to 4 and 5. You start having problems. Okay, you start having problems. They start affecting the ventilation, and you start affecting so many things. Causes disease build up, and also so many things. So we don't want that also for our farmers. Very important. We also discuss nutrition as one of the important ways of managing heat stress. We said the time of feeding, how to feed. We also advise our farmers that you don't feed at the peak of the uh, heat period. You don't want to feed your birds when the temperature is at the hottest, because if you do that, it's going to increase the temperature level of the beds, and it's going to increase the beds. It's going to have more hits, and then increases the mortality of the birds. You don't want to do that. So you want to watch the time you feed your birds. When in the afternoon, you can stop feeding. You can suspend feeding. If your feeder are suspended, you can take it up and tie it up so that the birds can have access to it. But this is the best time also to what, to give them water. So you want to give them water at this point in time. More water. If the water is cold, the better for the birds. If the water is warm, you don't want that. Okay, so water, cold water. And in case you can't give them cold water, it's important that you insistently change your water. So you change it, you change it, you change it, you change it every time you change it. So sometimes you can even change your water 2 to 3 to 4 times before evening, just to keep the water fresh and cold. It's very important that you also do that. We in fact we advise our farmers to do that also. So you want to always do this, and we also advise our farmers on vitamins. So when your birds are quite hot, they are panting, is the best time or to give them what, to give them vitamins, give them vitamins for them to drink, and add it to their water. You can also there's some that you can also add to their feed. It's help them moderate stress. It's help them, it's anti-stress. They are called anti-stress. Vitamin and electrolytes. They are called anti-stress. Also, another ways also in which you can manage it is through your operations. Okay, so all your managemental practices, things that you are doing as you are managing your pen, like I said, and stock intensity. Know how many beds that your pen should have. You don't want to overstock your beds, and because of its Christmas period, and you have customers, your pen that can carry 30 beds, you are going to give them 50 beds. Not your pen that can carry 30 beds, because you know that during the festivity period, during Christmas, during Sarah, during Easter, or during Ember months, that there are so many weddings, you will not run short of customers. So this is the time for you to make money, but it's being penny wise. It's being penny wise, because if you overstock your beds, yeah, you increase the heat level of the beds, and also you make the beds um, not to grow well. Not to grow well. It's very important. And at this point also, it's also very important that when at any activity like vaccination, like I just finished saying, it's important that you don't vaccinate in the afternoon. You don't forget that during vaccination, you are starving the best of water. So the heat level in them is increasing. You don't want to do this in the afternoon, because the They are already hot in the afternoon and don't give them water again. What happens to the birds? The temperature becomes hotter, the internal temperature becomes hotter, and they start manifesting heat strokes and other things. So you want to give your birds vaccine in the mornings and in the evenings. Also, it's also important that when you want to change your litters, the manures on the ground, that you do this in the morning and in the evening. Every poultry farmer will agree with me that as you change, as you pack the manure, you are stressing the birds. So the birds will move from point A to point B. So every farmer will agree with me. And you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this when in the afternoon when the birds are already heat stressed from heat. So when you do it early mornings, as early as 6:30 in the morning, you want to do this, you want to change your liters and everything, and as late as 6:30 in the evenings, you want to do this. At that particular point in time, the temperature is colder and the birds can cope easily. Also, very importantly, that um, every farmer understand that when moving your birds from point A to point B. So sometimes you build your birds in a brooding house, and when the birds are 2 weeks or 1 week, depending on the season, you want to move them to another section for grow outs. It's very important that you do this during the morning and evening periods. You don't want to do this when the birds are stressed. Sometimes something as small as stressing them at this particular point in time, something as small as that can cause the birds to start falling sick because you have tempered with their immune status at that particular point in time. So any small bacterial infection, any small exposure to pathogenic organisms, the birds will come down with clinical signs of diseases, and you don't want that. So you want to avoid any stressful activity. If peradventure you miss the morning period, you want to wait until the evening period. And peradventure is not even moving the birds from brooding house to even grow out pen. Sometimes when the rainy season, so sometimes breeze can just blow the roof of your. I will not pay for that actually. So wind can just blow the roof of your building, of your pen, and I want to quickly move the birds. Yes, it's good that you move them to somewhere else safer, but you want to do this as much as possible during the morning and the evening periods. You don't want to do this in the afternoon period because of the general stress that the birds are already going through. So it's good to understand that in the afternoon period, you want to give the birds as minimal stress as possible. You want to reduce the stress to the barest minimum because it's very important for the birds. Finally, on this, you want to also know when to offtake. The conclusion of every farming activities is how to sell and when to sell. So you want to know when to sell your birds. We don't advise that you do this off taking activities in the afternoon. And we also tell farmers it should be done in the morning, in the first in the morning period. If somebody is coming to buy your birds, you are calling them, you are saying, please, can you come first thing in the morning? Once it's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you don't want to do that again. Because peradventure they comes and out of 100 birds, they pick 80 and 20 is still remaining with you. Because of the stress of going around, catching the birds and doing so many other things, introducing new people, new faces to the birds are stressed. So the remaining 20 that are still with you might not grow very well because you've tempered with their immune status and they'll start having issues. They'll start having issues. Okay. I want to use this period to also announce that our next training session will be in Hausa language. Mr. Mohammed will be taking the session for us, and it's good that for our audience because we understand that we have a large number of Hausa audience or Hausa speaking audience. So our next training session will be in Hausa language, and we crave your indulgence to also pay attention. So if you have Hausa speaking farmers around you, you can also tell them and make them question. Okay, make them attend. Okay, thank you very much. Question. Say, please, can I use complete iron pen after then round up? Okay, complete iron pen. We don't advise you to use an iron pen because if you use iron pen, I can just imagine the condition of of the birds, the temperature of the pen during the heat period. So when the sun is shining, I can imagine the condition of the birds. I can imagine how it's going to be. The iron is a very good conductor of heat, so you don't want to do that. Also, it's also quite risky because you want to put bulbs in your pen, in your cage. You want to put bulbs, and bulbs will need electricity, and electricity will come with wiring. And wiring, wire and iron, they're not good friends. So anything can happen. A wire might be a leakage somewhere or breaching somewhere, and it's in contact with the iron. And once you come, as you touch, or the bird man can be electrocuted, and even you yourself, as you touch your pen, something can happen to you. We've seen cases like that when, because of something as small as electricity breaches, farmers are being electrocuted, and that's not what we want. But even majorly is the fact that you cannot control the heat of an iron pen. Some we want to put insulators. Some we want to put insulators. Yes, but it's still not enough. So you want to avoid that as much as possible. A wooden pen and with nets is just the best for you. A wooden pen. I have on that question here. It said use of antibiotics immediately after stocking. Is it advisable? Yes, use of antibiotics after stocking. Is it advisable? In an perfectly ideal situation, uh, we're not supposed to abuse antibiotics. That is in a perfectly ideal situation. But because we don't trust the process, you cannot completely trust the process. So the birds are being exposed to a variety of other factors from the parent stock. You cannot really say what happens with the parent stock. Sometimes this parent stock have an there's a vertical transmission of disease from the parent stock to the chicks. So as they come, they are already coming with a particular type of disease, mostly polluvium and other things. Also, the handlers of this pen, sometimes as they bring the bed, sorry, from the hatchery to the farmer. They give drivers stop on the way to eat. They touch these chicks with their hands. You don't know what they've touched. Some of these drivers don't have adequate knowledge of disease transmission and biosecurity. So the car can stop on the way, they take some birds down, so many things can happen. So because of you don't the process is not entirely in your hands. So you cannot give 100% trust in the process that happens from the hatchery to when you stock the birds. We advise that you give antibiotics, but we don't advise you to give them on the first day. On the first day, we say glucose and multivitamins. Then subsequently, in the next 4 to 5 days, you can administer weak antibiotics. So we see farmers that administer strong antibiotics, doxygen, gen dogs, and gentilo. So many strong chemflox, that is rifloxacin, 20%. So many strong antibiotics at day old. We don't advise that. We advise you to use weaker antibiotics like fluoricol, caprocyril. I don't want to mention so many names and advertise for companies. Weak antibiotics. Because at this particular time, don't forget the birds are not clinically sick. We are trying to just treat prophetically. We are trying to prevent diseases. If you use strong antibiotics and the birds adapt themselves or their system is used to that strong antibiotics, once the birds get to 3, 4, 5 weeks or 6 weeks and they come down with sicknesses or with diseases, what do you want to do again? Already the immune system have been adapted or have adapted to strong antibiotics. So at that particular point in time, if you give them again, it may not work again. So you give them the weak one. As they grow older, you increase the strength of the antibiotics. Question: is folic acid good for bird? Yes, it's good for bird. Folic acid help in different ways. It helps the birds in um, digestion. Okay, so it helps the GIT tracts to what for better digestion. So it's good for birds, but it's good that it's not abused. So you should know the quantity. Well, most of this feed also have folic acid, and most of the vitamins we buy also have folic acid. But in case the one you buy does not have, that's why it's good to also check the ingredients of the drug. Check the ingredients. You can administer folic acid to the birds. It's good for them, actually. Question. He said, hello, doctor. My bird seems to be shrinking after treating white spool. What can I do? The bird seems to be shrinking. Now, very importantly, it's good that you understand that uh, before this particular disease called avian influenza is uh, is strange, but right now it's an endemic disease in Nigeria. That means it's everywhere. There's so many avian influenza, and so it's common. One of the signs of avian influenza is the shrinking of the birds. So you see the birds start to shrink. You see their legs start to get small, and you see them very tiny. So it can be one of the symptoms of avian influenza. So if you have that case, you can suspect avian influenza and start to take proactive measures. You can start to give them strong antibiotics. You can start to disinfect the birds. There are so many. It's a different topic on its own. When we get to disease management, we are going to discuss that. So yes, if they are shrinking, you can suspect avian influenza. And sometimes again, if the birds have gumboro, which is infectious bursal disease, it can come with shrinking also. So you must know what is happening. I can't just tell you this because I don't know the cause of the sickness, the cause, the cause of the sickness. So it's very important that you know this. Thank you very much. I think there's no other questions. I'm going to be rounding up right now. I want to say again, if you have not signed up on the app, please, this is a good time to sign up. Scroll down or scroll up. You're going to see the link and use the link to sign up on the app. Once again, thank you. Don't forget our next session will be in Hausa. So tell your neighbors, tell that farmer that have 20 beds, 30 beds, 50 beds, 5 beds to join our next session. As you continue with us, one thing we can promise you is that your farming practice will get better and you're going to be proud to be a Porus farmer. Thank you very much. If you are here, you don't have a weighing scale, and you want to know where to get a weighing scale, the office have weighing scale at a very, very subsidized rate. So you can call the office number and book for one or order for one. You can also stroll to the office. We are open from Mondays to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come and pick one. If you know you don't know how to use it, join us on Facebook and know how to use it. Our videos on Facebook. When you join us, watch the videos and know how to use it. If you've not subscribed, please subscribe now and help us as we help you. Thank you very much. See you in our next session.